Welcome to another episode of the Southbound Sports Podcast. I am your host, Richie Leahy. Again, we're back talking with Matty B, and this week we are focusing on the second round of the NFL playoffs, the divisional round. This is the first full round that involves all of the teams, and it's pretty exciting as we get ready to close in on the AFC and NFC championships. So, hope you enjoy. I already put out teasers on YouTube, so those will be floating around. I'll probably do a supercut of the podcast, sort of like the highlights for those of you that would prefer to have a video. I'm not going to pop up the full podcast itself on YouTube, so follow. If you like the audio format, follow us. We're still waiting to hear back to see if we can get it syndicated on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and others. So check us out, follow us on YouTube, and look for us on the other subscriber list. I'll be tweeting it out. You can follow us on Southbound Sports. Sports has to be abbreviated, though, without an O, on Twitter. So check that out. Look for us, and you'll get most of your updates there. We also have a Facebook group, and I think a Google Plus profile that's tied in with YouTube. So check us out, and you can keep up to date with us on there. Thanks, and enjoy this week's podcast. All right, welcome to Southbound Sports. We're back here with Matty B talking I think it's the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, basically round 2. We now have all the teams involved, no more buys. I'm pretty confident on the AFC, my picks. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the Patriots and the Steelers. And I don't even know if Big Ben's playing. I'm assuming he is. And I just think that that's going to be the matchup. In the NFC, totally different. I don't know. Just looking at the teams, you have the Seahawks playing the Falcons. That's a toss-up. It's in Atlanta. I kind of like Atlanta. I'm leaning towards them, but you can't count out Pete Carroll. And the Packers and Cowboys, I don't think either of them makes it to the Super Bowl. I think it's probably going to be the Falcons or the Seahawks. What do you think?
I got to agree 100% with you. I think Atlanta this year has proven that they're definitely, in my opinion, the team to beat. In years past, it's been the Julio Jones show, and as Matt Ryan has proven this year, if you want to double team him, then they have Coleman and Freeman out of the backfield that have been providing some explosive plays in the run game. The offseason pickup of Mohamed Sanu has really paid dividends for them as well. Also, with having some other receivers that are quality players as well, they can spread the ball around, and they're putting points on the board. As far as I actually like them today over the Seahawks, and I believe the line's like 5 or 6 points. I still like Atlanta in this one, just for the simple fact that Seattle's offense over the last couple weeks has just been awful. Not scoring points, Russell Wilson making really poor reads and throwing in costly interceptions. I think that's going to come back to bite him sooner or later. They've made it to the playoffs and they've gotten to this point, but I just don't know how much longer that streak can go.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I've been leaning towards the Falcons on this one too. I wasn't sure. I know they had some injuries that hurt them like around week 10 or so with Sanu going down, but now they should be at full strength. And the Seahawks, Russell Wilson has not been playing well. Some of the touchdowns, if you watched the game last week, they were like crazy one-handed grabs, and that was like 2 or 3 times that happened, where it's like a guy's he's smoked, bad pass, he has to reach out and make a one-handed catch. That's not something that is going to carry you through these late rounds of the NFL playoffs. And looking down, looking at the Packers and the Cowboys, I'm pretty sure the Cowboys are going to win, but I don't know if they have enough to actually make it past the next round. I think they're going to win this week, though, against the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is another one who's been so inconsistent. He puts up the stats because his team gets down. There were a couple weeks early on where he's like throwing for a ton of yards, but he also has a couple interceptions. And playing in the North, whenever AP went out, they should have easily had a bye this season, and he couldn't get it done. So I'm not confident in them at all.
I kind of feel the opposite. I think statistically, I read that no rookie quarterback has ever won the Super Bowl or made it that far with a rookie quarterback. I think that the Cowboys have done a good job in easing Prescott into the pro-style offense, and he's done really well. But I just don't know, going from Dallas up to it's in Dallas.
It's in Dallas, yeah.
Isn't it? So they'll have the home crowd, but I just there's something about the Pack that I think that they're going to end up pulling this one out.
I'm the reason I'm going Cowboys is because of their offensive line. They're going to control the game, and when that happens, I just don't think the Packers have enough explosive playmakers. They don't have someone to complement Jordy Nelson. So when you shut him down, you have some of the Packers receivers who can't even catch the ball. So and then their running game, they're cutting running backs like week 12 and trying to throw in a wide receiver as their main running back. It just doesn't seem like it's going to work.
Well, actually, I think Jordy Nelson's out this week, if I'm not mistaken. And I think, with having basically a wide receiver running back, it doesn't necessarily hurt the Packers because they've been kind of using the short screen passes and out of the backfield throws for basically their run game.
Yeah,
and I know
that works to an extent, but in these playoff games, the game's going to be so condensed because of the running of the Cowboys. I just don't think that's going to get it done for them. It's going to be like some West Coast luck if they win. I could see maybe that year the 49ers had that deep throw in the end zone against the Cowboys where Dwight Clark jumps up and catches it because they just controlled the game and kept it close all game. That's how the Packers is going to have to win this one.
Well, I definitely think regardless it'll be an interesting move one way or the other.
I actually think that's the best matchup of the weekend because there's so many unknowns. Now, it could easily be a blowout in either area, but that's the game to watch. And I think they went ahead and scheduled that accordingly with their main 4:40 matchup on Sunday. On the AFC, because I already gave my picks, do you think the Texans can even keep this one close?
I really do. Watching the game last week with the Raiders, I think if they can get Lamar Miller going early and they can establish some sort of run game, I think that they can possibly control the clock. Now, I believe the line on this is about 16 points, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's one of the heaviest lines all time. So I would easily pick the Texans to cover that line. But
plus, I think when you're looking at the Patriots and what they've been able to accomplish over the however many years, I could see maybe not so much from the coaching side, but the player side, thinking it's the Texans. They're and not really showing up for the game, just kind of thinking, well, we're just going to roll right over them and maybe have their eyes looking towards Pittsburgh in the following week.
Yeah, and that's what I thought week 4 or 3 whenever they played, and the Patriots still steamrolled them 28-0, and they didn't even have Tom Brady. So that's why I think that the Texans might be able to keep it close. They're going to need a huge play from Clowney on the other defensive end position. He's going to have to disrupt the game, and I don't know if he can do it.
I tell you, that's exactly what he did last week, and that I've eaten a little bit of crow because I thought even with the Raiders not having Derek Carr, I thought they were going to show up and knock off the Texans, but it just wasn't the case. I mean, the defense, even without J.J. Watt, they played an outstanding game, and I think that trend could possibly continue this week.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think Clowney is one of the big reasons he was able to fill in, make some plays. He's finally starting to show his potential. I was always high on him coming out of South Carolina, and I thought he could have a long type Julius Peppers career, but he started so low that I wasn't sure if that was ever going to pan out or not. And now, after last week's performance, I think that's going to be a big upside for the Texans. And if they get J.J. Watt back, I don't know if he's out completely for the playoffs, but they're going to need him back if they want to make a deeper run. And I think that it ends this week for them.
Yeah, I think defensively they're definitely heading in the right direction. For them to really go deep in the playoffs, they need to get more consistency out of the offensive side of the ball. They signed Osweiler to this massive contract, and he just hasn't earned his money this year as far as I'm concerned. I think that the easy throws that he should be making on the early downs he doesn't make. He's forcing throws into coverage, and it's really hurt. It's putting them back. so that they end up being in these third and long situations where he has to throw the ball down the field and it's leading to interceptions.
Yeah, and him being so inconsistent, where they bench him, he has to come back in. That can't be good for his confidence.
I would think probably not. The other thing that really hurts him is he's not the most mobile quarterback. So even if you got into a long situation where they're going to man up, he could. If you had a more mobile quarterback, he'd still be able to maybe cut it outside or let the protection break down and take off and run for 10, 12 yards. He's not able to do that.
Yeah, I know.
He's taking a lot of sacks,
and they need him to do that because I was actually kind of disappointed in Will Fuller. He started out good in like the first 2 weeks as a good compliment to Hopkins, and then he kind of disappeared after he started having hamstring injuries, and they're not able to stretch the field as much as they did early on in the season.
Now, what about on the other game? Do you think that Kansas City, that they have any chance of running with Pittsburgh?
Well, I'll tell you 2 words, Andy Reid. Andy Reid, he's reached the second round of the playoffs, courtesy of a bye. So that will get him that extension, and he's good. He's good for another few years. I did see Alex Smith. Every time I see him in the playoffs, I think of that 49ers where he ran that naked boot for a touchdown against, I think it was the Saints, to win the game. Like a crazy call, a quarterback bootleg, naked down the sideline, Alex Smith running. Like, hey, finally the number 1 pick is making some moves. And then he gets hurt the following year. They don't make it, and he never plays again. Now he's at the Chiefs. He meets up with Andy Reid, and I think that's it. I think that's their ceiling. And if Ben Roethlisberger, if he's fine, he doesn't even have to be 100%. Ben Roethlisberger, he's clutch, and I have 100% confidence in him. He'll get the job done. The Chiefs, on the other hand, they might keep it close. Tyreek Hill, he's been a great wild card for them because he can score on punts. He can score on random handoffs. He can score on screens. And they need him to make some moves. I think if the Chiefs are going to win, Hill has to score 2 touchdowns, and I don't think that's going to happen.
I kind of feel the same way. I want to think that the Chiefs are going to knock Pittsburgh off, but you never. There's something about this time of year that Pittsburgh just doesn't panic. They have veteran guys in the right spots that they've been here, they've done that, and they just turn it on at the right time. I think whether the injury, I know they said that he was going to play through it regardless. I think if his foot was broke, he would still be out there like hobbling on 1 foot, throwing 80-yard passes down the field. I think the matchup that you have to look for is the Pittsburgh secondary versus how they're going to match up with Hill, because that seems to be where some of the issues. They've always been very good at stopping the run, but they've been susceptible in pass coverage, and it's not for lack of trying of drafting players and trying to get people to fit. I think they're getting there, but it's just been a slow process trying to make up for some of the better players that they've had over the last couple years.
Yeah, and it seems like they always have a chance to give up a big play. If you think back to earlier this year when they played the Cowboys, you think like this one's over, and then they give up a huge run to Elliott, and then it's like a crazy back and forth end to the game. I remember I was waiting to see if Ben would do a fake spike at one point, and it just seems like they need to be in control. The Chiefs luckily the Chiefs are limited in weapons. They can take it to the house. So if they can spy and shadow on Hill, and I don't know if they have a player to do that, I think that they're going to be able to pull this one out, and I'm still confident in the Steelers, even though they're on the road. I think it's going to be Steelers and Patriots next week, and the NFC I'm not clear on, but I'm pretty sure that that's the AFC, how it's going to play out today.
That pretty much is how I feel as well. I think the Steelers are going to get that win today over Kansas City. I think spread-wise, I like the Texans, but I think the Patriots are still going to win in the end, and we'll have to see how things play out this week.
All right. Sounds good. We'll be back next week with some other picks. Keep an eye out. Follow us on Twitter, and check out southboundsports.com. We'll be throwing up some research on NFL, college football starting off, and some Major League Baseball payrolls. So check us out.